wait on D. Well, good morning and welcome to the meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board for October the 27th, 2022. I believe we have a quorum. Do we agree? Therefore, the meeting is called to order. We will begin with Roman numeral 2, item A. You've been furnished with copies of the minutes for the September 22nd, 2022 meeting of this board. Are there additions or corrections? Shall we approve them? Been moved by Cecilia Robinson Woods that we approve them, seconded by Zane Boatwright. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. I can't cast mine. I don't know how.
This is voting not available.
Do you not want me to vote, Lisa? I vote yes. All right. The minutes have been approved. That brings us to item B. David?
Item B is the revenue expenditure report for the period ending September 30th, 2022. Real quickly on the revenue side for the month, $938.
Sorry?
For a fiscal year, $152,967 and a total of $837,549,471. On the expenditure side for the month, $2,485,452. Fiscal year of $7,156,981 and total of $786,959,587. And then you also have your budget and obligations report in your packet. I can try to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there questions for David? Everyone all right? Shall we receive the report? It's been moved by Bob Nalen that we receive it, seconded by Michael Adams. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. Yes. The reports have been received. That then brings us to item C, the 2023 meeting schedule. David?
So this is something we've done every year, and we're required to post these meetings, and this is all of your advisory board meetings for the next year. Now let me point out that we went ahead and posted all of these, but we may very well not do all of these. It's easier and makes more sense for us to post them now, get them filed with the state as we're supposed to, but then we can cancel meetings. There's talk now that maybe after the wellness centers are done, that this will ease up quite a bit. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. We certainly make an effort not to bring you together just for the sake of fellowship here, but we do have business to do, and like I said, we brought these, but we can always cancel meetings.
Questions for David? I will mention that I have met with the mayor and we've talked about what the strategy for ongoing of MAPS 3. As you know, we still have projects out there that require citizen oversight, and we plan to complete our work. However, at some point, probably during 2023, we'll be thinking about some kind of a transition for us. So I think it's a good idea to go ahead and set all the meetings, and we'll deal with it as we come to it. Okay? All right, let's see, do we need to approve that meeting schedule? then,
Yes, sir.
don't we? It's been moved by Zane Boatright that we approve it, seconded by Bob Nalen. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. I vote yes. The item has passed, the meeting schedule has been approved. That brings us to item D, David.
Item D is recommend approval of change order number 8, project M3H002B, MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 1, additional improvements, 11501 North Rockwell Avenue, increase of $19,428. Ward 1, this project is essentially complete. These are some things that we needed to just wrap that up. $448 for a concrete step, just some things. The biggest item being some area drains that needed to be put in to drain two areas that were behind the curb between the building. There's some additional electrical conduit, and there's a fire alarm module that needed to be replaced. So I can try to answer any questions if you have on this, but essentially this project's complete.
I do have a question for you, David. You said concrete step. Wouldn't it be better if it were an ADA compliant?
Well, it is ADA compliant, so it's probably more of what you would call a stoop.
Okay.
Right outside of the door.
I understand.
Further questions for David? Shall we approve it? It's been moved by James Cooper that we approve it, seconded by Cecilia Robinson Woods. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. I vote yes, Lisa. The item has been approved, change order number 8. That brings us to item E. David?
Item E is a presentation on construction progress of MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center. So we try to bring you periodically what's going on with the construction projects. Tony Blatt, formerly of Blatt Architects. You might do some splaining there, but Tony Blatt is here to give you a presentation on the great progress that's been going on at Wellness Center 3.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Yes, a lot has happened since our last presentation to you. Most notably, the roof being on. It's been a long time coming, and it's really nice to see this building starting to get into the dry and getting really kind of formally progress being made on the interior of the building. Just a brief overview of things that we've discussed in the past. There's an active side and a passive side to this building. The active side has a wellness area, a fitness area, a group exercise room and gymnasium, a pool, and around the gymnasium area, it's got an elevated walking track. For the passive side, or the community and learning and gathering areas within the building, multiple gathering spaces, a meeting room that can be subdivided for both meeting and for dining, arts and preparation spaces, and teaching and demonstration kitchen, catering and congregate meals kitchen, multi-purpose clinic spaces, games, computers, and also outside activities are a part of the program of this facility. Located at the intersection of 36th and Lincoln, this site was clear whenever it started. So much has happened since that point. Homeland has been completed, and it's wonderful to see all the activity on the site. It's very, very busy and very frequented by a lot of the neighborhood individuals. The Wellness Center is going to be constructed on the north side of the property as shown in the rendering to the right. The floor plan, base floor plan on the left side, kind of peach color and red, that's the active part of the facility. It's the gymnasium to the north, which is up sheet, and then the fitness area to the south, that's in the red. In the middle, you have a blue area and a gray area. The blue area is the pool, and the gray area is supporting functions for the pool, the locker rooms and the toilet areas. Kind of the gold down in front is the front lobby, the spine by which all the activity happens throughout the different program spaces. Around to the lavender is the passive side with the kitchen, the meeting rooms, the classrooms. That's what happens on the ground floor, and then also the clinic area is there as well. On the upper portion, the red is the elevated track. There are locations that we can have fitness equipment on the elevated track, and then also an enclosed fitness room on the elevated track. This is going to be a great space that's going to have views down into the gymnasium, but also views to the outside down towards the Capitol. We'll typically show renderings that are respective of the, or pictures that are respective of the original renderings for the project. This being looking from the southwest to the northeast, showing the entirety of the project. And then a recent photograph that shows the green is all of the weather barrier that's already been installed. You can see the curtain wall glass is being installed. And then in some future pictures, and on this one here, you can also see all of the roofing has been installed. So the building is essentially in the dry, and now we're going forth with the inside of the building. Picture that's looking from the southeast towards the northwest, really showcasing on the gymnasium space and that elevated walk track with the curtain wall with the angled sill. This is that same picture showing that the insulation and the furring tracks have been installed. The metal panels are going in along Lincoln, and they're going to work their way around to this east side. This is a shot from the center, looking at the portico share, the vehicle drop-off, and the main entry to the facility. A similar shot showing the wood-grained fiber composite panels that are on the walls. You can also see clearly that the roofing has now been installed on this portico share. This was the last element to receive roofing. This is that entry lobby space looking back towards the west. And you can see here that same space. Drywall is starting to get installed. You can see the wood beams that are spanning across the space, and this will have an open structure that'll be painted. The deck will be a painted surface. Looking to the southeast inside the gymnasium on the elevated track, and the same view in current construction. From this elevated track, you'll be able to look right down and see the Capitol down Lincoln. Look inside the pool. So the pool tile work has been completed, or it's nearing completion. The last element inside this space is where we've got a couple of pieces that are coming in so that the trench drain around the pool can be installed, and then they'll be pouring the deck, and this is really nearing completion. So the only change order that is new to, that hasn't been seen and approved before is change order 9. Since the last time that we had approved any change, or that we had made a presentation, 7, 8, and 9 had been completed, but the 7 and 8 have been approved, and number 9 is new exterior guardrails, an adult changing station, and a security gate relocation for $19,981. And then a kind of a compilation of all of the change orders 1 through 9, with the final change order amount being $577,605.88 for a percentage of 4.93% above the original cost of construction. Start of construction was on April 12th, 2021, and it is currently scheduled to be substantially complete on February 14th of 2023. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tony?
Not necessarily a question as much as a comment. In yesterday's gathering, we did talk about the absence of a restroom on the second floor of the athletic area around the track. And we did request that they bring some dollars, an estimate back, so we can determine if that's something we could do. And I think in our kind of exploration of whether or not this was something that happened in other places, I think, Mike, you said that Center Number 2 has a restroom on the second floor. Somebody said that. Maybe not. Somebody does. But so we just, want to be consistent, but also want to make sure that if there is a possibility to provide that accommodation, so that's not something we have to come back and try to do later. And I think they've identified a space where that could happen.
Thank you, Cecilia. Any other questions or comments? Anything else from you, David?
No, sir.
Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it. Looking good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So we're going to be completed on Valentine's Day. Everybody get that on their calendar. All right. That brings us into item F, which follows up with Tony's presentation. David?
Yeah, like you said, this is change order 9 of the Wellness Center 3 that you just saw the presentation on, and I'll answer any questions or get Tony back up here if I have to.
Okay. Are there questions about change order number 9 on Wellness Center number 3? It's been moved by James Cooper, seconded by Dee Morales, that we approve this change order. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. Lisa, I vote yes. The matter has been passed unanimously, and the change order is approved. That then brings us to item G. David?
So item G, very similar, is a presentation on Wellness Center number 4. Michael Seagroves from GSB is here to give us an update on Wellness Center 4.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
Just to bring you up to speed on our project down on Southwestern, kind of reminding everyone where we're at. We're just south of 134th on Southwestern. Building faces to the west with parking in front and a pavilion and porch to the back towards the pond that's out there. On the, what is the right side of your screen is the north side of the building with most of our social and meeting spaces. And to the right or the left side is our active spaces and pool. Meeting rooms, leasable space, offices, great room and library. Moving to the left towards fitness studios, game room, spin and flex studio. I think I went one too far. There's our second floor where it includes the jogging track and the restroom that you were, Ms. Robinson Woods, asking about is included in this already along with the rest area. We are slightly behind Center 3, but the building is getting dried in. It's mostly dried in at this point, except for windows and doors that we're awaiting. This is from the front of the building towards the south or towards the southeast. This is the rear of the building from the pond side near the demonstration kitchen and meeting rooms. There's the pool room from the outside, gymnasium and walking track from the backside to the southeast. And that's a view to the south of the elevated track that's under construction. And that'll be the view inside the fitness area where the art installation will be hanging from the roof of the building in between the elevated track and above the fitness equipment. And that is from the lobby out towards the great room. Change order 7 for $14,476. We are lowering the ceiling in the area of the lobby to accommodate miscellaneous steel that had to be installed and how that conflicted with HVAC ducts. We split some of them up, but still couldn't get it into the ceiling to fit exactly how we wanted to, so we're lowering that ceiling. That adds $14,476 in 4 calendar days. Going through our pending change orders and active change orders, we are on change order 7 at $14,476, which would bring the new contract amount to $14,088,011 from $14,073,535. We're at 1.02% above the original contract. And with the additional 4 days, we would move from February 16th to February 20th for our substantial completion. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate the report. Now that then brings us, I guess, to item H, which is the change order that he has just described for us. It is change order number 7. Shall we approve it? It's been moved by Cecilia Robinson Woods that we approve. It's been seconded by Dee Morales. Is there further discussion? Cast your vote. Yes. The motion has been passed, the change order has been approved. That takes us to item I. David?
Item I is recommend approval of preliminary report, project M3T007, maps 3 Katy Trail connections, vicinity of Northeast 10th Street between Northeast Grand and Windermere Avenue, and vicinity of Northeast 23rd Street and southbound I-35 Service Road, and project M3T008, maps 3 Air Depot Trail, Air Depot Boulevard between 59th and I-240, wards 4 and 7. If you'll recall, we were blessed with excess money in the trails. This isn't excess collections, but money that was within the trails funds to begin with, and we're able to do these additional trails. So today we have the preliminary report here for these projects. Chris Russell is here from Team Design to give you a presentation on this preliminary design report.
Welcome, Chris.
Hi. Thank you for having me. My name is Chris Russell. I'm the project manager for these two projects. As Dave mentioned, we just submitted the preliminary design report this month, so this is, I'll be going over that. So going through the project overview, there are 3 locations. The first is Katy Trail at Northeast 10th Street. For this connection location, the proposed connections are on the east side of the trail, and I'll have a location map in just a moment so where you can see all that. For this location, there is a base bid and an alternate one. Moving north to 23rd Street, the proposed connection is in the northwest quadrant of this intersection, and there are 2 design options here. The final location is Air Depot Trail, which runs from I-240 interchange north for about 1.25 miles to southeast 59th Street. Again, there is a base bid here and an alternate one. At all the locations, we work to incorporate the trail wayfinding and signage standards, which were designed as part of a previous Oklahoma City project. And lastly, the preliminary estimate. The construction budget for this project is just over $2.2 million, and the preliminary base bid estimate is about $4,000 within that budget. So first, the location map at Northeast 10th Street. To orient ourselves, we have I-35 here. As I mentioned previously, there's the base bid, which is what I also call the south connection in yellow, and the alternate one, which is that red shown on the north side of the road. You'll note between Katy Trail and I-35 is also the Edwards Early Education and Community Center. Moving north to 23rd Street, again we have I-35, and this is option 1, the shorter connection. Here's option 2, slightly longer connection. And something of note, that adjacent field that's there is also part of Oklahoma City Public School District, which owns the bus lot to the north of that. And finally, we have Air Depot. So to orient ourselves, north is to the right. You can see on the far left side of the map there, we are picking up from the Tinker Draper Trail, which runs from Lake Stanley Draper. We then take the trail to the west side of Air Depot Boulevard and run it north underneath the I-240 bridges, as well as a BNSF bridge, which connects onto the Tinker Air Force Base. Going through the typical sections for these trails, the top typical there is for the Katy Trail connections. The bottom one is for the Air Depot Trail. They're identical for the 12-foot wide paved asphalt section. It's made up of 5 inches of asphalt over 6 inches of stabilized subgrade. The difference between these two typicals is the Katy Trails, they have a 1.5 foot wide concrete edging on either side of the paved trail. Air Depot, because of its proximity to the right-of-way and with all the utilities throughout that corridor, the trail is mostly at the back of curb, so that concrete edging is only on one side and it's 8 inches wide. Going to our typical crosswalk detail as well as our bollard layout. The left side of that image there is our full width section, so when the trail isn't up against the back of curb. We have 2 stationary bollards on either side outside of the paved trail with the center detachable bollard. On the right side of that image is where we have the trail up against the back of curb. In that instance, we only have the 1 stationary bollard opposite the curb with the detachable in the center again. And then the right image there is the trail wayfinding and signage details, which again come from a previous Oklahoma City project. So getting into the weeds of the design, starting with the south connection, which is again the base bid. This image is looking south, about the location of that circle. The south connection is about 300 feet long, and the grade of that connection is made up of 5% runs and 2% landings, but if we were to straight line between the Katy Trail and down to the existing sidewalk there, it's about a 4.7% grade. A couple items of note, you'll see on the outside of the connection, we have proposed bike-safe railing. At this preliminary stage, we haven't selected any specific type of railing, but just identified the need for railing to protect that drop-off, because it is about a 12 to 15-foot elevation difference there. And then as you get down towards the street, you see a little bit of a bump out with some additional railing on the outside there. The purpose of that design was to potentially catch any out-of-control bicyclists, particularly kids, that are coming down that steep slope so they don't accidentally go out into the street. They are caught by something. Moving to alternate one, the north connection. Very similar design. It's a little longer at 350 feet, but the grade's nearly identical. The main difference between the two is that, as you can see in the image there, between the Katy Trail and that Edwards Early Education Center, there is a significantly large drainage channel that runs in between. So to accommodate the connection as well as that channel without encroaching on the school there, we had to add a retaining wall, and you can see that in the plan view there, with some ditching and some drainage structures. Additionally, and you can see it in the image there at the bottom, there is an existing connection from the sidewalk to the school property. We have reconstructed that in our proposed design. Here we have a quick drone flight just to give some added context of the site. On the south side, there is less vegetation that we'll have to clear for the connection, and that adjacent lot is just a vacant lot. The north side, again, you can see that connection to the school and the significant vegetation that we will have to clear with alternate one. Moving north to 23rd Street, this is option one. It is about 350 feet long. Again, same 4.7% grade between those 2 points. Along 23rd Street is about a 2-foot tall retaining wall that runs parallel to the road. The trail, if you can see on the plan view, has a bit of a jog in it where it kind of parallels the existing sidewalk. It fits in between this retaining wall and an existing tree out there, a significantly large tree that we are trying to preserve. Then as you get down towards the existing Katy Trail, there are two drainage structures out there now, this one here and this one to the north. The main purpose of option one is to tie in between those two drainage structures so that we have minimal impact to the existing drainage out there and the vegetation as well. So this is the proposed location of that connection. Essentially, we'd be cutting through that retaining wall and constructing two shorter retaining walls going along the connection to support that earth in that location. Here's just another perspective of that same location. And going to option two, the longer connection here is about 630 feet. It has the same features and design up near 23rd Street, but the main purpose of option two was to look at an option that would go north of the retaining wall, so we didn't have to cut through it. This is that location where we'd tie in. One of the main considerations that happens with option two is that because it runs parallel to the retaining wall out there now, it would cut through more of that existing vegetation, as well as require more right-of-way along that connection. Again, here we just have a quick last video here. You just see the site, and then on the right, you'll see that tree that we are trying to preserve with that design as it is. Okay. Moving on to Air Depot. As I mentioned previously, we are picking up from the Tinker Draper Trail. So in this image here, you can actually see that existing trail where it ties into the I-240 interchange. This image is looking north, and you can see the I-240 bridges in the background there. So one of our main goals for this design, given all of the crowded corridor, is to minimize impacts to the existing traffic signal equipment. So we're proposing to use a similar retaining wall and hand railing as you see in this image along this corridor, but in particular around the I-240 interchange. Then as we go underneath the I-240 bridges, there's only about 12 feet between the existing bridge piers and the back of curb. So what we're proposing is to extend the trail a little wider there, about 19 to 20 feet wide, to then construct a retaining wall behind the piers so that we can support that existing 3-to-1 slope wall that's coming down from the bridges. Additionally, we'll construct a concrete flume along the top of that retaining wall to catch any sediment that's coming down off the bridges. Currently, what's happening out there is that sediment's running down and just depositing on the existing sidewalk. That drainage and sediment would then be diverted to the north and south, where it would tie into the ditches out there now on either side of the highway. We've already begun coordinating with ODOT, but we would continue that process going forward, so they're involved with the design. Further north, the trail, again, as I mentioned previously, primarily stays at the back of curb due to the constraints with the right-of-way and utilities out there now. This image is just on the north side of Southeast 74th Street. As you can see, we have overhead electric, sanitary sewer, gas, and AT&T communication lines out there now. We will continue working through utility coordination with Oklahoma City as we go forward. A little further north, we go over a double 10x4 bridge box, which goes over a USGS Blue Line stream. It's the proposed 12-foot wide trail will fit between the back of curb and that head wall, but we have proposed adding hand railing here as well to protect that drop-off at the structure. Then just north of Southeast 64th Street, we tie the trail into the existing 6-foot sidewalk for about 700 feet. The main purpose of this is this relatively new signalized intersection that goes to an Amazon warehouse drive. With that existing 6-foot sidewalk, the overhead electric, and that traffic signal equipment, as you can see in this photo, it's quite a crowded corridor. And then a few hundred feet north of that is an existing retaining wall and sidewalk that goes underneath that BNSF railroad bridge. So we're tying in to maintain this existing equipment and site so that we can keep the cost down. Additionally, this design that you see here in the image is similar to what we would have back at the I-240 bridges. North of the BNSF bridge, the terrain levels out quite a bit, so there's plenty of room, sorry, too far, plenty of room for the trail to fit and all that. And all along the corridor, we have reconstructed certain drives to make them ADA compliant for that 2% cross slope. Finally, we tie in at Southeast 59th Street with the existing on-street bike that's there, with some reconstruction of this pedestrian refuge island. Getting into the cost estimates for 10th Street, the top estimate here that you see is for the base bid, that south connection, that is $281,000. That second estimate that you see is for the alternate one. It's about double the cost, mainly due to that retaining wall and the drainage that we had to add. At 23rd Street, the option one is the top that you see there. That is the shorter connection. It's around $242,000, with the longer option two about $100,000 more than that. Air Depot Trail, primarily due to its length, is just under $1.7 million, and alternate one, which I haven't mentioned yet, that is just under $50,000. Alternate one is capturing all of the wayfinding trail signage, as well as the continental striping for non-signalized street crossings. That is separated out just to keep the cost within budget. And then here we have just the summary of those costs. So as I mentioned previously, it does stay within the program construction budget. So with that, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chris, I'm gonna direct a question to David for all of us, but I'd like for you to stay there, so
Sure.
he may want to call on you.
Sure.
Remind us, David, what we're approving when we're asked to approve the preliminary report, and then remind me who, on the options and the alternates that he has described, is that fully dependent on dollars, or are there decisions to be made about what's better? And if so, who decides that before it's brought to the subcommittees? kind of remind us what our job is here.
Sure. So this being a preliminary report it is just as described. It's preliminary plans that outline the basic alignments and grades, and we start getting a feel for what the cost estimate is going to be. Once we approve this, then we authorize them to prepare final plans. This is what we've done on every single project that we've brought to you, is they've all included preliminary plans, and then we go on to final plans. As far as the alternates, we identify these sometimes to help us with the budget, or just to separate and understand what things might cost, whether we want to award them or not. So the way the bid will be set up, it will be set up as a base bid and these alternates. And when we get the bids back, we can make the decision whether we have the money, whether it's worth spending that money on those alternates to award those at that time. And that's going to be several months from now.
Thank you. That refresher course was good for
Okay.
me. Any other questions?
I think my question is kind of the same as Tom's, but just to clarify. On the 10th Street, for example, we have two options. Are we suggesting one or the other, or are we suggesting hoping to do both?
The options are only at 23rd Street, and it is one or the other. The alternates at 10th Street and Air Depot, those would be what he was talking about being added on and decided at a later date.
So we're suggesting at 10th Street, you may want to do both of those, is that what we're saying?
But potentially,
Potentially.
if the budget is there, yes.
Okay. So there's not that one of them's more preferable than the other?
No, sir. They're two separate designs.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add that this was presented to the subcommittee yesterday. We did not have a quorum, but those members that were present recommended that we bring it to the board.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chris or David?
I don't know for either of you, you're probably both knowledgeable on what I'm about to ask, but I was trying to dig in at Air Depot,
Yeah.
at the kind of line item there. What are the costs for the bridge work?
Want me to go back?
Yeah, the underpass. Like and where would I find that on here? And could you walk us through again what specifically you're gonna do under that bridge?
So what you're seeing here, there is no cost associated with that. That bridge box is what you're talking about, or?
Specifically the underpass.
Talking
I'm
about
sorry,
going
I-240.
underneath I-240.
Yes, sir. Okay, apologize. Yes. Yes, so the cost associated with that is going to be lumped in with the paving, so that'll be the asphalt, the concrete header, tack coat, all of those operations with the paving, and the retaining wall. That would be, let's see, item 13 in there. And actually, sorry, so specifically the I-240 bridges, that would be line item 32. So that'll be a specific cast-in-place retaining wall. They'll have to be built with that. So that is a linear footage, and that's how we estimated that, based on the height and the length of it.
It's
Does that answer your
several
question?
pieces in there. So it's the retaining wall, and then the materials to build the trail, striping, all the.
Excavation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, yeah.
excavation, yeah, rock backfill, all that stuff.
So, and
Not
it's,
a line item in here.
but this 32, this item 32, so $331,000 to do the
retaining wall
underpass,
specifically, yes, sir.
Yeah.
but not the other components.
Right.
No, those are broken out throughout there.
So I'm asking because I'm going someplace else here in a moment with this question. Total dollar amounts, what will it cost to do that work under that underpass?
I don't think that he can tell you right now.
Yeah.
We could certainly come up with that number, but I would say that it's the 331 plus some of the, like we said, the trail costs.
Correct.
The tack coat, you've got the header curve, you've got the cement kiln dust in there, you've got excavation. So we'd have to put it all together and quantify it to get just that piece of it. So when they put it together, they do all the pieces on the sheet and
Okay.
lump it all together.
It will be very helpful for me to know that because I know we're MAPS 3, but since we're in horror movie season, we're in kind of sequel land also, so I'm very interested in Maps 4. And I-235 and 23rd Street. You know, there's several opportunities there from different projects to do some work at that intersection. And I'd like to better understand the cost associated with doing the work you all just described to us here. Sure. I think similar work is quite frankly necessary at, I mean, the subcommittee in MAPS 4 and the advisory board will eventually decide, right, what the particulars of any project that, I mean, they're in such infancy in terms of these conversations, but, you know, there's just such a, that 235 there at 23rd Street is such a barrier between Ward 7 and Ward 2, between Uptown and the Clara Looper corridor. And I just think some work like this would go a long way under that interstate.
I just caution you, Councilman, though, of we might be comparing apples and oranges with heights of backfill and slope
Sure.
walls and other various conditions could affect this, so I'll have to look at that.
No, that's great. That's why I at least wanted to like kind of be able to wrap my head around now what kind of cost we're talking about when we're doing that. But that's a fair point too. So just wanted to speak all that into existence. So thank you. And thank you for your presentation too.
Any other questions for Chris? All right then, we have a recommendation that we approve the preliminary report to take the next step in this project. Shall we approve it? It's been moved by Cecilia Robinson Woods that we approve it, seconded by James Cooper. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. Lisa, I vote yes. It was unanimously adopted. Thank you. That brings us to item Roman numeral 3, new business. David, any new business from our staff?
No, sir.
Any new business from members of the Citizens Advisory Board? All right, then, let's go to item 4. This is the time we always reserve for the subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittees that want to report beyond what we've already heard? All right, then. David, that brings us to item 5, your update.
I really don't have much to update. I think my update was presented today with the 3 presentations, so everything's moving right along.
Great. Any questions for David during this particular item? All right. Item 6 is an informational item. You've been furnished with the information about it. Are there any questions about item A under the informational item? Okay, that brings us to item 7, comments by members of the board.
Yeah, just to say to Mike, who has mentioned to me an interest in some trail work on the south side of the city, and Mr. Todd can correct me where I'm wrong here, but I would encourage you to look, and anyone who's interested in trail connectivity on the south side of the city. At council this week, the planning department applied for a series of surface area block grants from the federal government. You probably saw this if you were tuning in at home or whenever it was. And there were a series of trails and bike infrastructure projects, and one of them has to do with some connectivity concerns you have raised in terms of, connecting from just south of the river to further south and into, Ward 5, et cetera. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested in that connectivity to go look at Tuesday's council agenda. On the consent docket, you'll see item by item the ones that are laid out. So thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you for that. We're all glad to hear that there's some light at the end of the tunnel for Michael Adams. All right, any comments from staff? No, sir. All right, this is also the time when any citizens who are here that would like to be heard may be heard. I haven't been notified that anybody's asked to be heard, so I'm assuming there are none. That brings us to item 8. Is there any further business to be conducted today by the Citizens Advisory Board? If not, we'll stand adjourned. thank you for coming. I really appreciate you coming. Thank you.